Hi guys, welcome back to our IMI Global webinar series. Today I have Doug Stanton. He's our Vice President of Sales Development for IMI Global, where food comes from. And today him and I are just going to talk a little bit about video sales over the summer and kind of give you guys a recap on what we've seen with trends in the market and answer some of our frequent questions we've been getting while we've been at the video sales. So Doug, if you will just give us a recap on the summer video sales and what you are seeing in the current marketplace for program cattle.
Sure, Ashley. Appreciate the opportunity to visit with everyone today, kind of where we're at and what we're seeing up to this point. We have a couple very large sales coming up in the next couple weeks and into next month. But what we've seen so far has been very, very positive for program cattle through the video sales. We've been present, as we always are, at as many as we possibly can to visit with our customers, visit with the video reps with the questions that they might have, auctioneers, etc. And that's been very helpful over the years, and we continue to do that. But all we hear is very positive responses, both from the reps and from customers. However, because of COVID, the customers have been restricted in some cases to attend some of the video sales. So we don't see as many of them in attendance as we would in a normal year. But we'll hear about it later on after the sale or in other discussions down the road. But we're seeing premiums, on the yearling cattle. Earlier in the year, we had a lot of yearling cattle move, and most of those are kind of starting to trickle out, and we don't have as many of those in these later sales. But and we're starting to move into the calves now. But the yearlings sold very well earlier in the year. Premiums sometimes up to $15 to $25 in some cases per 100. And on a 9-weight steer, that's a lot of money. And that's been very positive from that standpoint. Then as we got into the calves in the last couple sales, both the weaned calves and the unweaned calves, of course, we always see some differences there, especially in the program cattle. The weaned cattle, especially in the natural programs, will tend to bring a little more money than an unweaned calf in a natural program. But they both sold well in their respective weaned and unweaned classifications over those that were not had any programs on them. And so as we move into these sales the next couple of weeks, we'll get into more of the calves and less of the yearlings, and so we'll get a better feel even more about what this calf market's going to look like based on those sales.
Awesome. My next question is, do you feel like the market will continue to stay strong for program cattle moving into the fall?
Yes, really, we're coming right out of the chute, honestly, at the Superior Bell Ringer sale clear there in January, and I think the program cattle have just strengthened since then. And as we started getting into these larger sales, we get into more headcount of program cattle. It still seems to be very consistent. We haven't seen any change, whether it's a Superior sale, a Western video market sale, or even a Northern video sale. We have seen very similar trends, and we expect that will continue. There'll be more program cattle in some of these sales coming up because some people have been rolling the cattle from some of the earlier sales, thinking the market might get better. And so we see a little bit of that. But that's one of the things on the program cattle that I would say that we haven't seen as much of people doing a no sale and POing them and moving them to a later sale. We're not seeing that with the program cattle as much as they are with the commodity cattle.
Well, that segues into another good question for you. And I know something that you've been asked quite a bit while at video sales, but are you seeing any different trends this year compared to last year in claims or premiums?
Yes, I think I was personally at the Reno Western video sale last week, and I saw something that really hadn't seen too much of yet, and we'll kind of see if that trend continues, but I think it will. We were seeing a couple of new aggressive buyers in the marketplace that were, where one of them in particular was looking maybe for NHTC cattle last year, and now they've moved more to looking at NHTC and verified natural cattle. They wanted both claims because that particular program is moving to a third-party natural program, and as far as requirements. And so we saw them kind of moving that trend and getting more aggressive on the natural cattle, where they were more aggressive on the NHTC cattle in the last year or so. Another situation what we ran into that I saw is another program that is looking for NHTC cattle, and they would buy cattle if they fit what they're after from an aspect of being Angus, etc. And they would bid on them beyond NHTC. They may have verified natural or beef care tied to them, and they would bid on them even though that particular program only needed to be NHTC as a minimum. So we are seeing people getting some of these new markets that are getting into the program cattle and going after attributes or claims that they may or may not only need, and go just to get the cattle that they need to fit the slots of the marketings that they foresee coming in the future.
So you made a brief comment about beef care. So that's been, a big thing for us, since January 1. So what are you seeing at the video sales as far as, visibility and lots that are approved for beef care, and what does that look like for producers?
Yes, we got it at the first video sale of the year, right when the program got launched. We got quite a few cattle into the Superior Bell Ringer sale to get us started out for the year. And Superior did a very good job of promoting our program. When the auctioneer is saying something about beef care cattle, cattle with heart, those kind of comments from the block, it really gets everybody understanding what we're talking about, making it more visible that these cattle that we're selling at that time were in the program. And we've seen that continue. Western Video did that some last week when I was at that sale. That was really their first big sale of the year. And Superior has continued from the bell ringer clear through the other sales up to this point. At the sale, both on the screen and on the block, continued to promote those cattle that come up and are beef care approved. I think that we saw the same thing this week with Northern too, as they started to get into their bigger sales where there are some care approved cattle. So what we're seeing is care in most cases up to this point has been bundled with our NHTC or in most cases with our verified natural. So as buyers are buying the natural cattle, they're getting beef care tied to it. And so they're getting some experience bringing beef care into their supply chains of their programs. So it will help us down the road with two specific programs that I'm aware of that are using NHTC or natural cattle. And in that, as long as they continue to go the trend they're at, they're getting beef care tied to those cattle as they're already approved. And then they're automatically getting their supply chain, and then they can start telling the story that at least 1% of their cattle are beef care approved, and they can continue to grow that over the next year or two, and where they can then be able to put it on a product at some point in time. So that's been working great, and we continue to see the amount of beef care cattle approved in these sales coming over the next 45 days. There will be even more visibility based on the number of lots that are beef care approved. So they will give buyers more opportunity to get cattle that are with that claim. So that's been very positive. We've got great response from it. And we're starting to see a couple programs out there right now. JBS specifically for their Aspen Ridge program is their goal over the next 2 to 3 years is each of those, all those cattle to also be not only third-party natural approved, which is a trend that's new for them, but to also get them beef care approved. And so that's been our really first large segment that we have seen, and as far as supply chains looking for beef care cattle that I think are already starting to show up.
Awesome. So just a couple of questions about, advice that you can give to first-time people. So what advice would you give for a new customer that is looking for a verification for the first time?
And they're looking to background the cattle for the first time. The big thing is, it's looking for verification the first time. Big thing would be for them to try to get, if you talk to feed yards, or even talking to packers, feed yards, and then the buyers of those 4 feed yards, they're telling people to bundle as many claims as possible together, because the feed yards want to buy the cattle. They're buying them in the summer of this year, for a lot of cases fall delivery, and then those cattle won't go to a packer till next summer or even early fall if they go through a grazing program over the winter. So those cattle are going to be filling slots for them with packers a long ways down the road. And so if they can be NHTC approved, natural approved, beef care approved, and have those different program attributes, that gives them flexibility to go into different markets. And that's what they want. They want the animal with the most opportunities to go into different markets, so they have flexibility in case they have to treat some cattle for pink eye. And then all of a sudden now they no longer can be natural, but they're already NHTC approved. And so they don't go down to commodity, they still can market them in a premium program. And so those are the kind of things I would recommend for that first time person. Now we know in some cases, I'd also encourage them to wean the cattle if possible. Now I know there's because of resources, because of facilities, things like that, people can't always wean the calves. But if you can wean them for 45 to 60 days, I think you're really going to increase the marketing opportunity for your calves, especially if they're in natural program.
So that's transitioning into on the backgrounder stalker perspective. So what advice would you give to them when they're looking to buy program cattle for the first time to then sell onto a packer or onto a feed yard and moving forward there?
Yes, we're starting to see some backgrounder or a ranch that has some extra grass, or they have some grazing opportunity. Maybe they have their own home raised calves and they buy yearlings every year, whether they're winter grazing in the West Coast or the summer grazing in the Midwest and High Plains. So they say, well, I always buy some cattle yearlings anyway. Why not I buy some program cattle? Well, I caution them and try to get ahead of the game if possible, because the requirements change a little bit when you go from a ranch operation to becoming a backgrounder. Because at that point, you're a stalker operation, but you're also a backgrounder, even though they may never be in a dry lot. You're a backgrounder. And so from a verification standpoint, you need to be approved a little bit differently. So you need to be approved as a ranch for your home raised calves, and then also as a backgrounder for those program cattle that you're bringing in from the outside. There's a little bit difference in requirements is what you have to do. For instance, one thing, critical part of it is you have to read those EID tags on those incoming calves, and then somehow identify them differently from your home raised calves, etc. But the big thing is, if you're thinking about doing that, I tell the backgrounders, if you're thinking about doing this and buying some program cattle, make sure that you get your operation approved as not only a ranch, but also as a backgrounder, so that you can bring those cattle in and get that done before you purchase the first cattle.
Okay, and then our final question is, what advice would you give to a feeder that is looking at finishing program cattle for the first time?
Okay. Yes, that is, it's a little different situation than I tell a backgrounder, because now you're going directly to a packer that you're going to be selling program cattle to. And so what I do in that case situation, I give them some opportunity of some contacts that we know from the different packers that are the program managers that are contracting cattle. And I tell them to reach out to them first, because I don't want them to go, to buy the cattle. Well, contact us, buy the cattle. We get their operation approved before they receive them. And then 60 days from they're ready to go to slaughter, they ask about a contract. That's way too late. I recommend to those feeders that if you haven't been in that contracting game on program cattle yet, go to a packer, get a contract, get a kill slot, and then go buy the cattle, and then contact us if you get the cattle bought, and we'll get your operation approved before you receive those cattle into your feed yard, which is also critical, just like the backgrounder, that you are approved before you receive those cattle.
Great. Well, Doug, that is all the questions that I have. So again, thank you for taking some time to chat with us and giving us a recap on the video sales. Just for everybody to know, Doug and I will continue being at video sales, as well as maybe some auditors that are in the area. So if you can make it to one, please come find us and chat with us. We'd love to talk with you and answer any questions you might have, or whatever you might need. So thanks again for watching. If you have any questions or concerns or want to learn more information about verification, you can call us at 303-895-3002, or you can look us up on our website at imiglobal.com. So thank you, guys.
You bet. Thanks, Ashley.